Teen Titans Go! The Night Begins to Shine series was actually decent. Now, out of all the cartoons that are currently airing, I never thought I would ever revisit Teen Titans Go! And that's mostly due to the fact that I don't watch the show, at least not anymore. I mean, I don't think it's bad, I have enjoyed it several few times, but the show has made it clear that I'm not their target audience, so I don't really bother watching it. Plus, at its worst, the show can be pretty much the most insulting thing on television, so I try to keep my distance. However, when they announced that they would make a 4-part episode based on a 40%, 40%, 20% episode, I was very curious. It's one of the few episodes of Teen Titans Go that I really like. So I was more than interested in watching this little series, and I'm glad I did. So this little mini series was more focused on the history behind the Night Begins to Shine song and the alternate dimension where the main characters always travel whenever they play the song. The historical background they gave was a little too silly and there were a few problems I had with it, which I'll address later in the video, but admittedly it did keep me hooked in the story. I was very happy that I got to revisit the alternate dimension with the beautiful visuals. The sky and the distant objects look gorgeous and the art style looks really badass. The action scenes were surprisingly well choreographed and exciting, from the first fight with the Titans against the evil dragon to the final battle, which was undeniably the best. The only parts that visually turned me off a little bit were the scenes that took place in the real world. Now, believe it or not, but I'm actually okay with Teen Titans Go's art style. Sure, I wish they would put more effort in the backgrounds, but I think the chibi style kind of fits the tone of the series. I also think that the art style can generate some decent designs. I mean, with the exception of Starfire, I think the main characters have decent designs, and there's this side character called Terra who I think has a cute design. But the problem I have is that the show's usual art is overly simplified and kinda boring to look at, especially when compared to the alternate style of the Night Begins to Shine dimension. Also, whenever we would come back to the real world, the characters would mostly just talk. Now, there's nothing wrong with just talking, especially when it's useful for the main plot, but compare that to the cool fight scenes and the cool shots of the main character driving, you can understand why I would feel at least a little bit turned off that we got to come back to the real world. But honestly, depending on how you feel about Teen Titans Go's art style, this might not bother you too much. One of the biggest concerns I had before watching this miniseries was how much they would play the Night Begins to Shine song before I would eventually get sick of it, and even though they did kind of overplay it, for a miniseries that was specifically about this song, perhaps they didn't play it as much as they probably could have. They did at least play some original scores and covers of that song by CeeLo Green and Fall Out Boy, which surprisingly did a really good job enhancing the atmosphere during the fight scenes. There were also a few extra songs performed by BER, which were all good, but my personal favorite was the Japanese cover of The Night Begins to Shine by Puffy Amiyumi, which was really the best thing they could have done. I don't care that much for the original Teen Titans, but I do really care for Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi, so it was really cool listening to the artist of which the show was based off. I wasn't very impressed with the dialogue, particularly with Cyborg and the main antagonist. It sounded a little too over the top, and I know it was probably intentional, but I think it could have been written a little more seriously. The humor was hit or miss. Some jokes worked and others not so much. In general, I think the humor was more good than bad, but not by a landslide. I enjoyed Beast Boy's side of the story. It was a little interesting watching him deal with not being around Cyborg and worrying about him, and it did help forward the plot by having him meet one of the members of BER. However, given the amount of time the first 2 episodes were given to Beast Boy, I think the show missed an opportunity to develop Beast Boy's character in some way or another, or do something interesting with his character arc. After he reunited with Cyborg, his side of the story was completely ignored, although given that this was a 4-part miniseries, perhaps there wasn't much they could have done with his character. However, the biggest problem this miniseries has is that the story has glaring issues. For starters, I was a little shocked at how CeeLo Green and Fall Out Boy pushed the Titans away. Like, I don't watch this show that much, but I thought the Titans were superheroes. Haven't they saved the day several times? Shouldn't these artists recognize the Titans and at least try to listen to what they have to say, especially when they make it clear that it's something serious and threatening? Although my main issue is that the logic behind BER's decision making is completely broken. So a long time ago, BER realized they needed to prevent the evil dragon from obtaining the song that could potentially give him a lot of power, and anyone else to be exact. So why the heck would you do that by making the song available for purchase on planet Earth? I mean, if Cyborg managed to get a hold of that song, then that means he must have bought it somewhere, and if we're going to assume that the tape wasn't put for sale, and instead Cyborg found it somewhere with no clue on where it came from, then BER did a really poor job hiding that tape. Where did they even hide it? Couldn't they just keep the tape for themselves and let one of them guard it? And if they actually did that, then how did they lose the tape and why didn't they do anything about it? Actually, why did they even record a tape containing the song in the first place? If their sole job was to keep the dragon away from the song, then just don't remind him of that song. In fact, recording a cassette tape kind of raises the chances of the dragon getting a hold of that song. Look, if someone has any explanation for why all of this happened and why BER decided to do all of this, feel free to tell me why, and don't tell me it's because they were following the prophecy, because if so, then whoever wrote this prophecy is the most retarded living being ever who only complicates things even more. But overall, this was decent. I would have called this good if they had put more effort in the story. So in other words, I recommend this miniseries. Yes, even to you who thinks Teen Titans Go is cancer because it's being aired a lot, even though there are other ways of watching your favorite CN shows, and they still premiere new episodes of other shows regardless of Teen Titans Go, and you don't necessarily need to watch Cartoon Network full day. Like, why would you do that? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.